Good evening, punters, and welcome to a special episode of The Tripod. It is the Week 1 Finals preview. We come to you having finished the regular season at 62% on our best bets, which is an incredible achievement for us, and looking to definitely continue that throughout the finals. And there's some cracking matchups this week. Jacob, how you going? You excited?
Bloody excited, mate. And I know we keep repeating, our winning percentage. It's not just that we're trying to blow our own horn. It really is like we came into this year saying it gets harder and harder to beat the bookies every year. Limited, exploitable markets, even limited competition and just a sharper marketplace. We really didn't even think 60% was possible. And we said earlier in the year, when we hit 60 or we're above it, I don't think we can continue this. So we've done it in front of you guys. We've given you the plays every week. We've explained why. And we haven't just hit 60, we've hit 62%. That is phenomenal, to be honest. And I think we just want to emphasize that because I've never seen anybody else do it over a season on any other sport. There's no guarantee we can do it again next year either, but we should celebrate it. Now, something else I want to celebrate is just the NRL. Like, we've made it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, now you've jinxed it.
Well, I just mean the NRL. What an achievement that we've had 20 rounds of footy, 18 after COVID. That is a great success by everyone who's been involved. This season has, never felt any less important. In fact, I think with all the social options and restrictions that have been in place this year, if anything, more people have watched the footy than ever before. It's been an awesome season. We have some really awesome footy sides that want to mark their name in history against 2020, and some games this week that will go a long way to deciding that. I mean, I'll put you on the spot right now. Can a team that doesn't win this weekend win the comp?
I think so. Yeah, and you're right. Like at the start of the season, we were like, oh my God, shortened season, no crowds. How is this going to work? And, I think the winner of this season, there's no way that they're going to have an asterisk next to it, I don't think. This has been, a tough season and worthy winner for whoever wins it. And I thought at the start of the season as well, like, empty crowds, this is going to be weird, like watching the games with no crowds, but they've done a really good job with it, and I never thought like it was awkward watching these games. So props to the NRL, because like you see what's happening in the NFL now, they're 3 weeks down and already had, multiple players with COVID and all the shit threatening to maybe shut down the season. So you're right, we've been very lucky and blessed to have the NRL on our screens, and hopefully we can keep it going throughout the finals week. I really think we can. Anything
now,
you want
of course, only 4 games instead of 8, but
Correct.
We're going to go super deep dive into these games. We always have to warn you guys, finals games, they're more scrutinised. There's less games, and we know more about the teams. We don't get flat spots. We don't get weird situational spots. We pretty much, with very few exceptions, get everyone's best effort. Therefore, kind of a bit less variance and less factors that we like to take advantage of through a regular season, harder to win and harder to win at a high percentage. But having said that, we still like a couple plays. We've still got some best bets that we feel good about, and we've got plenty of reasons why.
Indeed, and we're going to do it a little bit differently today. Instead of us releasing the best bets after we talk about the games, because I know you guys are trigger happy, and sometimes the lines are gone by the time we release it, because we kind of talk about the games, we talk about the side that we like, and you guys go off and search on your own while we're talking. So we are going to release the best bets before we talk about the game, so that everyone has an equal opportunity to get on, and then we'll explain our reasoning afterwards. Let us start off with the Friday night game. This is the game of the round. It's the Panthers hosting the Roosters. The Panthers are now 2-point favourites, and the total is 37.5 points. And I'll throw the best bets up on the screen right now. We do like the Panthers in this one. We're going to take 2 best bets on the game. It's the Roosters team total under 8.5 in the first half. That one's on Unibet. And staying on Unibet, we're taking the Panthers to win the first half in a two-way market. That is $1.83. And like I said, this is the game of the round for sure. Both teams bringing back a couple of guys, that rested, in previous rounds and last week. The only guy really of note that's missing is Jake Friend, and I think that does hurt the Roosters a little bit in this one. Now, this game, not only is it huge for this week because the winner gets the bye, but it's also because I think there's 3 clear favourites in the comp, and I think there has been for quite some time. The Roosters, the Panthers, and the Storm. And the winner of this one doesn't have to see one of the other 2 till the grand final, and that's a massive benefit to the winner of this game. Now, good news for the Panthers as well, and the Panthers fans. They've been trying for a little while now to get upgraded in terms of how many fans can come to the stadium. The other 3 games had already gotten approval. The Panthers, I think, got that a couple of days ago. So they've been approved for 7,000 fans. I think it's about a third of the capacity there at Panthers Stadium. So I think you have to jack up their home field advantage slightly from that. Now, we all know the story. Like, Panthers coming in, 15-game win streak. We had a minor premiers. That's huge. But I think one thing that gets missed with this Panthers side, they've just had the same group of players together pretty much the entire season, except for Cleary missing those first couple of games. They've had basically the whole team together. And you know who had the whole team together for basically the whole year? The Roosters the last couple of years. And that's what they haven't had this year. And it's not only coming into the finals healthy, which the Roosters relatively are, except for the couple guys they missed early on, but it's also like chemistry and continuity that I think comes in a little bit underrated. And I think that is what this Panthers team has. I see a lot of comments all the time in the group. Like, I don't know what else this Panthers team has to do, honestly. People keep underrating this Panthers side despite having won 15 in a row. And I think, their game style is just perfect for the finals. I don't know about you, Jacob, but like I was saying, they'll be making 40 for 50 meters a set, and they'll be keeping their opposition to 20, 30 meters a set. And it's just the defensive mentality and the in-game kicking from Cleary and the ability to get repeat sets is a massive bonus once you hit finals time, because we all know sort of defense steps up, etc. On the continuity point, I will add as well, like, Roosters haven't had that this year. That's what they had last year. Sort of went through the whole season, no major injuries. This year they've had Cordner in and out of the team. Obviously they've had a number of people. Verrills, Radley got injured early on, and they've had multiple guys sit, rest, injured, whatever you want to call it. So they're not coming in with as much continuity as this Panthers team. So, although the line has moved from pick'em to -2, I still think that the Panthers do win this one.
Yeah, this is such a big game, and what you said just before about the big 3 heavyweights, this is obviously the 2. You've got Panthers, without question, the best team of 2020, but you've got the Roosters, without question, like the best team of the last 3 years combined. And when they were playing their best footy, which was directly after the COVID break, they were as good as anything we've seen. And the 3rd heavyweight clearly being the Storm. When you said the winner of this game can get to a grand final without facing the Storm, that assumes the Storm wins the next day. But right, they are like $1.20, so that's the most likely event. Now, I'll throw you a side bet if you want it, because I asked you, do you think a team that loses this week could win the comp? You said you think they could. I mean, you can think about this after I share my handicap, but would you take $2 odds that any team that loses in week 1 of the finals could still make a grand final? Have a think about that. And I will say no. I will say a team that loses this week won't make a grand final.
You talk, I'll think about it.
You'll at least be getting one of these. So you talk about the Panthers lineup, and they're full strength, as strong as they possibly could be. And you're right, they haven't had any major injuries, just really minor injuries. Coruscant out a week here or there, Kickow. They've been able to freshen up guys when they needed it, even Crichton sat out last week. You look through the team, it's so hard to pick a hole in this team. Like, the outside backs have been on fire. The halves, Cleary is the best player in the competition, confirmed this week. Pretty much he's going to win the Dally M. Luai's been sensational, second only to Sean Johnson in try assists. That left side attack for the Panthers is phenomenal. We need to talk about the Roosters' performance last week. But sticking with the Panthers, their forward pack, even the bench, it's bulletproof. It has looked bulletproof for 15 straight weeks. They lost 1 game this season and they had 1 tie. Now, what people will try and pick holes in the Panthers. They'll say they're inexperienced. But look a little closer. I mean, in the outside backs, you have Mansour, who's played for Australia. You have Cleary, who has played for New South Wales. You have Tarmow, who's played for New South Wales and won a grand final, played for Australia. You have Isaiah Yeo, a veteran. Tedavano won the comp last year, another veteran. The Vicious Fish, Kickout, Coruscant, internationals. So they're not as inexperienced as people make out, I guess. Let's look at the Roosters lineup. You're right, they're pretty much full strength, as strong as they can be, other than Jake Friend. So Freddie Lussick comes in. He was their under-20s player last year at hooker. But, as we know, Friend is the first choice. Maybe Radley or Verrills, either of them would have been the second choice hooker. They're both out as well. So they're getting a little thin there. But for me, you look at the Roosters' back 6. It's absolute dynamite. You've got Teddy, Tupou, Manu, who got a rest last week, and the Morris Bros, and then setting them all up. The forward pack, really isn't missing anyone who hasn't been out for a few months. And you can tell how strong the Roosters are when you look Nat Butcher, who was really the Radley replacement at first, can't make the side. Mitch Orbison can't crack the side. Ikavalu can't crack the 17. So it's a super strong side. We cannot preview this game without deep diving into the 60-8 loss to the Bunnies, and you recapped it on Sunday. And I'm going to go all in on this and say 100% they punted the game. Now, I wish I would have known that was their intention beforehand.
You should have seen the comments that we received on YouTube.
Do you think people disagree with that statement?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, well, I don't want to take anything away from the Bunnies. They were absolutely unbelievable. It was a perfect storm of like an amazing Bunnies performance. But if you listen to Trent Robinson's comments about he gave the players multiple days off earlier in the week, he freshened them up, he shortened the preparation for that game. And when they asked him, did you see that performance coming? And he said, not the magnitude. I didn't see 60 points coming. And we talked about that they actually decided in-house either they didn't care if they played the Panthers or Storm, or potentially they even see the Storm as better than the Panthers, like a bigger threat. And one game involved travelling on game day to Queensland. The other did not. They chose to lose and play the Panthers. And that's a strong statement, and they will never admit it. But they clearly did not put an emphasis. They clearly said to the players, we're not going to be showing everything that we've been doing in training, which is basically code for
It's not crazy. We said it on the preview to round 19, round 20.
It's hard for people to believe. Now, here's the narrative after the game. And this is, if you guys listen to people that break down the footy afterwards, it's quite easy to sound smart after the result. If the Panthers lose this, people will say, well, we saw the warning signs last week. You let in 60 points. They clearly weren't right. Their confidence was down. And if the Roosters win this game, then everyone will go, ultimate chess move by Robson.
Right.
He knew exactly what he was doing. He got his team right. Of course, the back-to-back champs were going to be up for this one. So it's easy to sound smart after the result. Us as punters, we have to be smart before the result. We have to talk about what's going to happen. Now, the Roosters' right side defence was torn to smithereens against the Bunnies, but they didn't have Manu or Brett Morris. You got them both back this week. You might look at their lineup and think Sonny Bill Williams is a weakness, but I really saw a great performance from him in that win over the Sharks, and I know Robinson wouldn't pick him unless he is a better option than Orbo and Butcher. Instead of going on and on about how good these teams are, because you can make a strong case for either of them, what it came down to for me, I need to think about why either of these teams would lose. I know why they could both win. They're both phenomenal teams. That's what makes this game such a great blockbuster. Why could either of them lose? And the strongest reason I come up with is everyone's talking about inexperience for the Panthers. I'm looking at the inexperience of Kyle Flanagan at 7, who's had his woes this season, and Freddie Lussick at 9. If they come up a little bit short in key moments, their opposite numbers are Nathan Cleary and Api Coruscant, who are about the best going around in those positions. I have more faith in the Panthers' in-game kicking, which you spoke about, generating repeat sets and field position pressure. Edge and goal kicking as well, while Flanagan's no mug. Cleary's the best goal kicker too. You give them a slight edge for home ground advantage. And I believe the Panthers are every bit as hungry as the Roosters, who are going for a three-peat. The Panthers are going for that success to cap off an amazing year, if not hungrier. Therefore, I think Panthers win this game. We can't get them at $1.80 or better, but I love the plays we have been able to get.
Yeah, and you said it, and you said it came down to you for, how's either team going to sort of lose this game. For me, it just came down to, now that they've got fans in the stadium, you probably do give them a couple of points for home field advantage. So to me, it came down to who is the better team this week. And you can argue that the Roosters may, if they make the grand final, yes, maybe when they get all the troops back, when they've got a bit more chemistry in the side, they're going to be the best team in the comp. That's easy to argue. But I think right now, this week, when you take into account the roster, the continuity, and the chemistry, I truly believe this Panthers team is better than this Roosters team coming into week 1 of the final. So that's why
we're did you think about my side bet offer?
I'll take it.
Do you want any part of that? You'll take it.
No, I'll take it. And I'll tell you why I'll take it. Because there's going to be 2 teams in the preliminary finals that didn't win week 1, obviously, right? And I don't think both of those teams are going to be over $4 odds. So that gives me a 50-50 shot, or better, for one to make the grand final. So I'll take it.
Well, you've slipped up there because the Bunnies or the Raiders could make a prelim, and they wouldn't have lost in week 1.
I've done it terrible. I retract that. I've thought about it wrong. You put me on the spot. I take back that side bet. Let's move on to Saturday. It's the Raiders up against the Sharks again. The Raiders are 13.5 point favourites. The total is 42.5 points. We like the over in this one, and we've got a pretty, not a convoluted best bet, but it's a same game multi on Sportsbet. It's going to pay $1.80. You're going to put in two legs. It's the Raiders team total over 20.5, and the Sharks team total over 7.5, and that is going to spit you out $1.80 on that one. Now, this is an interesting one because I don't know how many times this would have happened in history, but I mean, you play a team the final week of the regular season, and then you play them the first week of the finals, and it's a tough one because it's like not really either team. I know the Sharks didn't have anything to gain from that one. I guess the Raiders, we spoke about it, that they had something to gain in that they had a small chance of making the top four if they won, but still probably wouldn't because the Eels were still favourites. So the Raiders have rested basically everyone last week. The Sharks have trotted out basically their full-strength outfit because, with the Shaun Johnson injury and stuff like that, they wanted to give, the guys a run and hopefully get some confidence going into finals time, and they still lose. And I don't want to talk too much about what the Sharks did to absolutely screw our bets last week, but look, they started slow. They got jumped on. They were down 24-6 early to the Raiders B-grade outfit, and they lost that one. So look, the Raiders get all their guys back for this week. The Sharks get back the four guys that they rested pre-game, along with Chad Townsend, who was suspended for last week. So that's a little bit more playmaking in their team with the loss of Shaun Johnson. Now, look, I know Shaun Johnson's been the heart and soul of this Sharks team, and he's probably had one of the better seasons that he's had in the last 5 to 6 weeks. Now, the question is with the Sharks side, are they just deflated now? Do they think they have no chance of winning the comp? Look, I probably think deep down they have no chance of winning the comp, but they're still going to put in for this one. And look, one of the things this is a 5:40 game in Canberra. It's going to be 24 degrees. It's going to be pretty hot down there. It's going to be nice and sunny. I think the Sharks say to themselves, the only way we're going to have any chance in this game is to chance our arm, throw the ball around, make it a high variance game. Because if they try and get into the grindhouse with the Raiders, then it's going to play right into their hands and the Raiders are going to smoke them. I do think that the Raiders win this game. There's no way that I can kind of see this Raiders side losing to this Sharks outfit. But because I think the Sharks are going to throw it round, play some high variance, go for some risky shit, and I know that this Sharks defense has been horrific all year long, and that's one thing that you just cannot improve from one week to another. So I think the Raiders get their points, and I think the Sharks are going to be good enough to score a couple tries or, a try and a penalty in this one.
So you look at the Raiders and they are as full strength as they could possibly be. I mean, I guess Curtis Scott had a mixed year, and you could say if you're trying to find a weakness, Rapana is somewhat of a makeshift centre, and Valame is a bit of a rookie on the wing, but he's held his own in performances he's had. I agree. I can't see on the Sharks side. You have to actually say that's a fairly solid 17, especially when they rested Ramian, Brayley, Talakai last week. Anyone else? Did Rudolph get a rest?
Yeah, there's one more Rudolph, yeah.
And they bring all those guys back in, and they've overachieved all season. Now, I agree. I really can't see the Sharks win. That would be a result that would shock me. But how could the Sharks win? They take a bunch of chances. You talk about high variance. So, you get a set on the Raiders line, and second tackle, it's a kick in behind. Try and catch them napping. And maybe you get a try, or maybe it's a 7-tackle set. Throw some long passes, offload the ball, and maybe they stick, and you generate a line break, or maybe they don't, and all of a sudden you're defending. So you have to play risky football to have any chance. They'd have to really harness the momentum of the 6 again rule and score, and then get a repeat set and score again. They'd need to score in bunches. I'm thinking they'd need probably 3 of the first 4 tries, and then maybe to score back-to-back tries in the second half. And that's what I'm getting at. For the Sharks to win, they'd have to score 5 or more tries, I think, because I don't trust their defense. And I just don't see how else they could take the Raiders forward pack out of it. And that Raiders forward pack is just exceptional. And they've got Soliola from that nasty facial injury, got him back last week, got a game under his belt, and he's in the 17. The Raiders' game plan will be quite the opposite. I think they know they're so good, they'll say, the Sharks can't beat us, we can only beat ourselves. So we'll be thinking, no silly errors, let's grind them into the dust, let's not give them any opportunities. What I also think about the Sharks team is they're quite a tight-knit, resilient squad. We've seen it time and time again. Even look at the game against the Roosters. Roosters blitzed them in periods, but they never dropped their bundle. They said, let's just keep playing footy. And even when Shaun Johnson did his Achilles, which was very early second half, They still kept throwing footy at the Roosters. They still got a try after that and had other opportunities. And as we know, they actually covered the line in that game. So they are capable, and that's why if I had to, I'd lay minus 13.5 with the Raiders, but I don't feel strongly enough that it's going to win, at 60%. So I'm with you that like the Raiders will score as many points as they need to comfortably win this game, but the Sharks should be able to generate a few points, just the nature of their, attacking footy and throwing it around.
Yeah, and that's why we've gone for the best bet that we have, because I think Sharks team total is 14.5. This way we get it down all the way to 7.5. And we do think that the Raiders are going to get theirs against what's been a suspect Sharks defense all season long. Let's move on to 2 versus 3. It's the Storm hosting the Eels. The Storm are 13.5 point favourites. The total is 38.5. And we have 2 best bets on this. Actually, 3. We're taking Mechanical Eels... No, 2. Sorry, I've put the headphone in the wrong spot. We're taking Mechanical Eels plus 14 points. It ends up being $1.88. With 94% of your stake on the Eels plus 13.5 with the $2 lines on Ladbrokes and Neds, and your 6% stake on the Storm to win by exactly 14 points. That is $17 on Bet365. Then we're going to take the Eels plus 6.5 points in the first half. That is $1.87 on Ladbrokes and on Neds. And this should be a good game. And to be honest, a lot of people will look at this line and say 13.5 seems like way too many points. Now, I don't think that this game should be under double digits. I think the Storm have done enough this season to merit being double-digit favourites against the Eels, but I still do think it's a couple to a few points too high. And it's a funny one, this one. It's an intriguing matchup because I guess I don't think you'd describe it as like rest versus rust, but I mean, like the Storm rested essentially everyone last week. And, they're well coached, so you expect them to be fine this week. But, I mean, on the flip side, like, this Eels side has played almost, like, really tough, almost must-win games for, like, the past month. And some might argue, that could fatigue them. But I think it's not going to be an issue week 1 of the finals. I think if they get further down the line, then maybe playing, like, a full month of must-win games in the regular season could catch up with them. Now, good thing for the Eels, they get Dylan Brown back. Like, I'm not in the Eels camp. I don't know if he's going to be 100%. He's coming back a little bit earlier than expected. But I think even if he's 80 to 90%, it adds so much more because, like, it's just that extra kicking threat. Like, Moses is a great in-game kicker, but the other sort of makeshift 5/8 replacements that they've had in there haven't really been, like, kicking threats. So you could just swamp Moses. And we also can't forget, like, Reid Marnie was out for a stretch there as well. The Eels have gotten him back a couple of weeks ago. That really adds a heap to the offense. I've said that before. He makes a huge difference. Now, you could argue, like, with a rested Storm, like, would you say a rested Storm, Jacob, is the best team in the comp this week? Like,
yes.
Like some people
apart from who's out, but yeah,
they're
right there.
Some people could make that argument, and obviously, like you said, Jacob, with the Roosters, like they didn't care whether they played the Storm or the Panthers. Maybe preferred to play, the Panthers, and this Eels side does have to travel up to Queensland. However, we got to remember as well, this game isn't at the sunny coast. This game is at Suncorp Stadium, and yes, Queensland has a big following of the Storm. However, the Storm side has been playing at the sunny coast for basically the entire season, and now they've got to go to Suncorp. I understand, a lot of the guys have played there numerous times, State of Origin, etc., but I think you downgrade the Storm home field advantage at Suncorp as opposed to the sunny coast for this one, a venue that they're, used to playing at for basically the whole season. So, a half-full Suncorp, I still got to see if I can get tickets. I assume it's sold out already, but look, I think that it's slightly too many points in this one. I think people have been down on the Eels for far too long. Like I said, Reid Marnie, Dylan Brown back now. This is a good team. This is still a good Eels team. And in a final style game with a 38.5 total, I think that they can hang tough here, especially first half.
Yeah, you make the case about Suncorp Stadium. I mean, this, I think, will have the biggest crowd of any game so far this year,
yeah,
post-COVID.
25,000, I think.
And the Storm do get supported well in Brisbane. But it's worth just remembering that, like, it's no Amy Park. Like,
Yeah.
they've been phenomenal. They haven't lost a game in Queensland this year, but it's still, that slight disadvantage that they don't get to play in front of their, true, passionate, ticket members down in Melbourne for what it's worth. But, of course, home field advantage is not just who's in the stands. You've got to factor in that the Eels are going to have to fly in on game day and stuff like that. It is a disadvantage. We've seen teams struggle with it, and it is, definitely in the Storm's favour. And we mentioned that might have been why the Roosters dodged this one. So the Storm, nearly full strength. So Pappy came back last week, got a run, in fact, captained them. Brandon Smith the same and looked really good and ripped and teared as usual. Christian Welsh returned from suspension. Faisal Malawi, and I believe was Big Nelson, actually had calf injuries like niggles from a couple of weeks ago, but they've both been cleared. Dale Finucane, though, is not in there. Still a key cog, lock forward of this team. He's been out for about a month now. He may return. I think they're saying definitely by a prelim, and maybe even if they need him in week 2 of the finals, should they play there, although obviously they're a big favourite here. And for the Eels, Dylan Brownback is enormous. Campbell Gillard got a rest last week, so he comes back in to boost this team that did play well in a comeback win against the passionate Tigers. Madison escaping a crusher charge is huge too, because if they would have lost him, he's the kind of guy you need. Like, you recruited him to give you a chance in battles like this. He's a guy who, has future rep player written all over him and really bolsters this pack. And speaking of the Eels pack, I'm not going to talk too much about why the Storm can win. Like, you all know, and you guys know, we got nothing but respect for the Storm. Pre-season, my grand final pick was actually Storm Eels. And, hey, you never know. Still in play. Now, we've only bet against the Storm 3 times in the last 18 rounds. And I'll tell you, when we bet against them, we took the Roosters against them at Suncorp, and we lost. But, like, the Roosters were up double digits late, and it was a crazy comeback, if you remember. That was the golden point game. We bet against the Storm 2 other times this year when they played the Eels and they lost 14-0 and they had several key players out. And when they played the Dragons and they had everyone out. So we've really basically never bet against the Storm when they're full strength.
We didn't play the Panthers early in the season?
I have a feeling we might have left that.
Maybe we might have left it.
We might have actually just passed it. So it's very rare that we play against the Storm. For the Eels, maybe we've been too high on them. But, you can't overstate, and you just talked about Dylan Brown coming back in, because it really unlocks a new dimension to the left side attack where Gutho likes to chime in, where they can, the threat of Mike Acevo being left with too much space out there, they can really trouble sides. Dylan Brown really is exactly like what Jerome Luai is to the Panthers. And then people thought Moses might raise his game to another level, getting more responsibility with Brown out, but it actually put too much on him. I think now he can focus just more on the right side attack there. I just think, we shouldn't really go through this game without mentioning this is the scene of the crime where they lost 64-10 last year in Magic Round. And then these teams also met in the finals in week 2, and the Storm won 32-0. So there's a revenge factor, although Eels got them this year. That was not a very meaningful game. But Eels are better in 2020 than they were last year.
Yes.
And I'm not saying the Storm's going to win, but I could see a scenario where the Eels win. I think their middle forwards of Junior Paulo, RCG, and Nathan Brown can match a Storm that I mentioned is missing Finucane. And I think that they're just getting too many points. Like, I know it's a long time ago, but I keep thinking back to how they played when they beat the Panthers, how they played when they came back against the Roosters, although they went on to let that slip. I believe that they can be competitive in this. I think they believe it too. And we're getting 14 points. It's just got to be on Parramatta here.
And you could imagine, I don't think many average punters are jumping on the Eels in this one. I think most people think they have absolutely no chance. We think otherwise. Let's move on to the Sunday game. It is the Rabbits hosting the Knights. The Rabbits are 8.5 point favourites. The total sitting at 44.5. And it's the only game so far in the finals that we do not have a best bet on so far. Super interesting game, this one, because it's not often that you get a finals game where two teams could not be coming into this game looking any different, I guess. I mean, the Souths played the game of the game of the season. 52-point win over the Roosters. You talked about it a little bit earlier, previewing the Roosters game, Jacob. And that was without Jaden Suo. They get back this week. On the flip side, the Knights, 30-point loss against the Titans. And I know people are going to, point fingers at this Knights team. But like I said in the recap pod, the Knights didn't super need the game. Yes, I know that it cost them a home final. And this Titans side is not a bottom 4 side. They were playing like a top 8 side down the stretch of this one. Now, basic strategy of any better would be to lean towards the team that got absolutely blown out against the team that had like one of their best wins and biggest wins of the season. And that's probably the way that I would lean in this one, is taking the 8.5 points with the Knights. The thing is, there's a couple of things that keep me hesitant. One is the Rabbits are a confidence team. We've talked about this. It's like, they took a little while to click. They had some injuries. Obviously, Latrell not in this one, but they've had some injuries throughout the season. Pretty much fully healthy other than that. And, this Rabbit side, if I were to choose one in the entire comp, to actually play on after a big win, it'd probably be the Rabbits, because I think they got some chemistry for that, and that's what they've been looking for all season, is a bit of chemistry and a bit of confidence. I think they got that. And on the flip side, like, I know the Knights, they will be up for this one, but there's just a little bit in my head that says, will they be a little bit deflated from losing last week and giving up a home final? Now, probably not. Despite all that, I mean, the game's at ANZ. Yes, home field advantage to the Rabbits, but it's not far to travel for the Knights. They're going to have 50% capacity there as well. Now, you look these rosters up and down, Jacob. I don't know what you think, but I mean, I really think that the only clear advantage that the Rabbitohs have is in the halves, because Cody Walker and Adam Reynolds have played awesome last week. They have been awesome pretty much all season long. And you've got Mason Lino in there, and you've got Mitchell Pearce, who has, been pretty quiet this year. Probably had one of his worst years on record. But then once again, like, the outside backs, now Bradman Best is back. Like, they're not that much worse than Souths. You look up and down the forwards. I don't think the Knights necessarily forwards are worse than this. So if both sides are up for this one, which I think they will be, you've got to lean towards taking the 8.5. The one issue is it's a 3 o'clock game on Sunday afternoon, perfect weather, nice and sunny. That is one thing that does that the Rabbitohs do get an advantage from, I think, because they're a bit more of an expansive team, a bit more of a playmaking team. I'd prefer to play the Knights if it was pissing down rain, obviously. But one thing that I want to wait on as well is just like, no one's betting the Knights, right? Who's going out to the window and betting the Knights after they just got smoked by the Titans and the Rabbitohs beat the defending back-to-back premiers by 52 points? No one. So I can see a way that this line ticks up to double digits, and then, it would be pretty juicy, I think.
So stay tuned in the Tripod group and the Tripod app. Let's look at the lineups first of all. So Sewer, they did it without him last week, and he's probably going to play for Queensland. Gun back rower who joins the pack, and the pack was what everyone poked holes in earlier in the year, and we've said the whole season this side had a lot of potential, and that pack that looked average earlier in the year, now that we know the form of the players and we respect Junior Totola and Tom Burgess, and we all knew what Cam Murray could do, right, and Jaden Sewer, now it looks a pretty formidable pack. I know Jaime Sele's out, but Liam Knight comes in. For the Knights, they are coming in pretty strong too. Lockie Fitzgibbon comes back into the team. Bradman Best, you mentioned, is massive. They really have looked thin in the outside backs. He didn't look special last week, but I just think the fact that he's fit and healthy, we know what that kid's capable of. Even Edric Lee, don't scoff at the fact that when he's been back for about a month or so, his matchup against Jackson Polo, and his ability to maybe jump and nab a bomb over him could be important in this game. But you're right. What are the deficiencies in the Knights? Well, Lino, he's only been in a few weeks at 6. He hasn't looked very good. Kurt Mann is a makeshift 9. We know they've lost about 3 options they had ahead of him. And I thought the same thing. Not just the only edge, but the glaring mismatch. Is that right. Reynolds and Walker are in unbelievable touch right now. And I talked about Lino's, so-so. Mitchell Pearce, on his best day, which going about 15 months ago when he was, or maybe even, 18 months ago when he was man of the match 5 times in a row in the middle of the season last year. On his best day, he can obviously mix it with anybody, but it's been a while since we've seen his best. I think for the Knights to win this game, Mitchell Pearce either has to be man of the match or he has to be second best on the field only to Ponga.
Right.
And that's, asking quite a bit. And speaking of Ponga, you'd think that's a massive matchup edge against Corey Allen. Corey Allen can't really hold a candle to Caleb Ponga. But the way that the Bunnies play opens up so many more opportunities for Corey Allen. Whereas Ponga, everyone looks at him to create the opportunities, as well as to score them. So I will say, the middle forwards for the Knights, I'd give them an advantage, actually. I think Clemmer, Saifidi, Barnett is a pretty good trio. But you talked about the style this game will be played. Had it even been a night game with a bit of dewy conditions, I think the Knights want this to be an arm wrestle. The longer the game goes on and they're close, they'll believe that, Kalen Ponga or someone like that can create a moment and they can win it. But if this game opens up, I just don't see how the Knights can go with the Bunnies. So being a day game, it's a funny one that the comment gets made in finals footy, throw form out the window. But of course you can't do that.
Right.
Like, we've talked about how this Bunnies team has had potential and that Wayne Bennett builds his team up to improve and play their best footy for the finals, and they absolutely are. And I know I told you guys that Roosters punted on the game, but the Bunnies on the other side were phenomenal last week. They're in great form. You can't argue that. And you don't really want to bet against them unless you've got a really good reason. The Knights have been patchy. That's true as well. And I think they'll be a lot better this week. But to bet a team even plus 8.5, I have to believe that they've got a decent chance, like a 1 in 3 or better, to win the game.
Right.
I can't, strongly tell you guys that. Of course, they're the sharp side, but it's just not a strong enough play for us yet. So watch this space.
And you made a good point. Obviously we say, generally the totals are a little bit lower in finals games. Obviously totals are, lower in State of Origin games. And we mentioned that, when we break down State of Origin, playmaking so much harder. It's harder to make meters, and it's similar in finals games. But the difference is, and you mentioned it, Jacob, State of Origins aren't played at 3 p.m. on a sunny afternoon, ever. And this one is, and that's why the total is 44.5. And yeah, like you said, if this one opens up and it's a tri-fest, then I don't think the Knights can hang. So,
and you know what? I should make one other point. What about another massive mismatch? Goal kicking.
Yeah.
We got Adam Reynolds against
Lino.
Kalen Ponga.
Lino's not terrible.
Lino's an improvement over Ponga.
Yeah,
Give me
he's
that.
decent.
Sorry,
he's
but
decent.
In saying that, again, it is yet another little edge that could hurt you if you're trying to catch the point with the Knights.
100%, and that is going to wrap it. I know we've been a little bit longer, guys, but it was only 4 games. We deep dived a little bit, and we had the pod a little bit longer. But trust us when we tell you that we deep dived these games longer than any of the other regular season games.
We live for this shit, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
How good is it? And this weekend is the best weekend in not just Australian sport, but sport worldwide. When you think of all the major sporting events and competitions that are taking place. So I hope you guys have earned some brownie points with the misses and plenty of time to just park up in front of the TV. And what better way to enjoy it than while also winning a bit of money on the punt. And hopefully we've helped you guys do that.
Indeed. So that'll wrap it for us, guys. We will see you guys Sunday afternoon to break down what is hopefully another winning week 1 of the finals. And once again, remember, like Jacob said, although we've won 62% this year, that's, not saying that's not sustainable, but don't go blowing your entire stack on week 1 of the finals. Please gamble responsibly, and we will see you guys on Sunday.
Lego.